On a brisk autumn evening, Gabriel trudged through the streets of Redbridge, the frigid air nipping at his exposed fingers. His worn-out sneakers squeaked against the damp pavement, a sound that punctuated the eerie quiet of his small, struggling neighborhood. Gabriel had just finished a long shift at Manny's Diner, where he worked as a line cook, juggling school during the day and work at night. His body ached and his stomach growled. A bag of leftover fries from the diner was all he had waiting for him at home. The streetlights flickered as he passed under them, their dim glow barely lighting his path. The weight of his backpack pressed heavily against his shoulders, filled not only with textbooks he hardly had time to read, but also with the weight of responsibility. Gabriel was just 18, but had become the glue holding his fractured family together. His mother, Rosa, was battling chronic illness, and his younger brother, Theo, depended on him for everything, from help with homework to a semblance of stability in their chaotic lives. Turning the corner near Tilly's grocery, Gabriel noticed a middle-aged woman struggling with several paper bags that seemed moments away from tearing apart. Her face was flushed, her breaths visible in the cold air as she tried to steady the precariously balanced groceries. Gabriel paused. His instincts told him to keep walking. He was exhausted, and his apartment wasn't far, but a small voice in his head, the one that always seemed to guide him, nudged him forward. "Excuse me, ma'am," Gabriel said, stepping closer. "Need a hand with those?" The woman looked up, startled but grateful. "Oh, thank you, young man. I parked just down the block. These bags are heavier than I expected." Gabriel took 2 bags, balancing them with ease, and walked alongside her toward an old station wagon parked on the side of the road. As they loaded the bags into the trunk, she smiled warmly at him. "You're a lifesaver," she said, patting his arm. "Not many young people would stop to help these days. What's your name, dear?" "Gabriel," he replied, offering a shy smile. "It's no big deal. Just glad I could help." "Well, Gabriel, my name's Evelyn Harding. If you ever need anything, come by my place. It's the big brick house on Magnolia Lane. I'll always remember your kindness." Gabriel nodded, unsure of what to say. As Evelyn drove off, he shoved his hands back into his jacket pockets and resumed his walk home, his mind already returning to the long list of worries waiting for him. That night, Gabriel came home to a dimly lit apartment. The living room was small and cluttered, the faint smell of reheated soup lingering in the air. His mother sat in her usual spot on the worn-out recliner, her face pale and tired. Theo was at the kitchen table, his math book spread out before him, struggling with his homework. "You're late," Rosa said softly, her voice strained but filled with warmth. "Long shift?" Gabriel nodded, setting his backpack down. "Yeah, busy night. They're cutting hours again, though." Rosa's face tightened, but she said nothing. Gabriel knew the look. It was the same one she wore every time a new medical bill arrived or their landlord threatened to raise the rent. He joined Theo at the table, helping him work through fractions as Rosa quietly drifted to sleep in the recliner. The next morning, Gabriel was on his way to school when there was a knock at the door. He opened it to find Evelyn standing there, accompanied by a tall man in a sharp gray suit. Gabriel blinked in surprise. "Mrs. Harding?" he asked, stepping back to let her in. Evelyn smiled warmly. "Good morning, Gabriel. I hope I'm not intruding. This is my assistant, Mr. Clark. I wanted to talk to you about something important." Gabriel glanced at Rosa, who had woken up and was now watching the exchange with cautious curiosity. Evelyn handed Gabriel an envelope. "You were so kind to help me last night," she began, "and I couldn't stop thinking about how rare that is these days. I run a catering business here in town, and we're expanding. I could use someone like you, someone reliable, hardworking. I'm offering you a job, Gabriel." Gabriel opened the envelope, finding a contract and details about the position. His brows furrowed as he read. It wasn't just any job. It paid well, offered flexible hours, and even came with mentorship opportunities. Rosa looked over his shoulder, her face a mix of suspicion and hope. "This is very generous, Mrs. Harding," she said. "But why my son?" Evelyn's smile softened. "Because he reminds me of someone I once knew, someone who didn't get the chances they deserved. I want to give him one." That evening, Gabriel sat at the kitchen table with the contract spread out in front of him. Theo played quietly in the corner, and Rosa sat across from him, her hands folded. "Are you sure about this?" Rosa asked. "It seems too good to be true," Gabriel hesitated. "I don't know, Ma. It feels real, but what if it's not? What if I let you and Theo down?" "You've never let us down, mijo," Rosa said firmly. "But if you don't take a chance, you'll never know." The next day, Gabriel met Evelyn at her office, a bright, bustling space above a bakery. She introduced him to her team and explained his role in detail, helping manage catering orders, coordinating schedules, and even learning some cooking skills. Gabriel threw himself into the work, eager to prove himself. Weeks turned into months, and Gabriel's life began to change. The steady income allowed him to pay off overdue bills and buy Theo new clothes for school. Rosa's health improved slightly with better nutrition and less stress. Evelyn became more than just an employer. She became a mentor, guiding Gabriel not just in work, but in life. She taught him about managing money, setting goals, and building a future. One day, as Gabriel helped pack food for a large event, Evelyn pulled him aside. "You've been doing an incredible job," she said. "I want to offer you something more, college tuition assistance. I think you have a bright future ahead, Gabriel." Gabriel was stunned. He had never thought college was an option, but now, for the first time, it felt within reach. That night, he sat with Rosa and Theo, telling them about Evelyn's offer. Tears filled Rosa's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "You're giving us a chance at something better." As Gabriel lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he thought back to the moment he had decided to help Evelyn with her groceries. It had seemed like such a small act at the time, but it had set in motion a series of events that transformed his life. Kindness, he realized, had a way of coming full circle.